Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the penultimate session in our CMS virtual event series, London, the Regions and Beyond. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon and bearing with us with a slight delay, but we're really excited to have you here. For those of you that have been on other sessions, you know who I am, but for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Anita. I'm an Early Talent Acquisition Advisor here at CMS, and alongside the wonderful Meet and Engage team, we also have my colleague Karen, who is going to be working the chat function this afternoon. So before we get going, just a little note on the chat function. Please do use that to communicate with Karen on the chat. So if you have any general milk ground queries, advertising applications, anything about CMS at all, do get asking. But we are also going to be having a Q&A at the end of this session. So I'm going to introduce our wonderful speakers in a moment. But any questions that you have that you would like to pose to our panel at the end of the session, do get asking in the chat to Karen, and we will pose them at the end of the event. So this session is all about showcasing CMS within the regions. But before we get going, I wanted to just start by asking you this first question. So how much do you right now know about CMS life outside of London? So while you are thinking about answering that, I'm just going to give you a little overview of kind of where we are across the UK and globally with regards to CMS early talent. So as you know, we do have a big presence in London. It's our HQ and one of our largest offices, but we do have extensive regional presence, which is continuing to grow across the UK and globally. So outside of London, within England, we have our Sheffield, Manchester, Liverpool, One North presence, and also in Bristol as well. And then in Scotland, we have Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen. And then internationally, we have opportunities in Dubai. Now, all of these locations, we have programs in that you can apply for 2023 for First Steps, our first year early insight into law program, and also our CMS Academy, the 3-week vacation scheme as well. So lots of opportunity outside of London within CMS. So while we're just waiting for those results to come in, I just wanted to introduce our speakers to you for this afternoon, who are going to showcase CMS within the regions. So we've got Sarah, Jake, Ambreen and Chelsea, who are all going to introduce themselves in a little bit more detail, and they're all based outside of London, and also Jake, who is doing our Dubai training contract at the moment. So they're going to talk to you a little bit more about their experiences. I'm not going to talk anymore because I'm going to let them do all the work. But before I introduce our first speaker, I just wanted to share the results of those polls. So it looks like quite a lot of you don't have that much knowledge about CMS in the region. So 54% of you know a little bit, 36 know some, but no one knows quite, a lot about CMS in the regions. So hopefully towards the end of the session, spoiler alert, we're going to ask you the same poll question again, and hopefully you've learned lots from this session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sarah to introduce herself and talk a little bit about life in One North. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you and afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Meldrum. I'm a partner in the Sheffield Transactional Real Estate team. I joined Navarro Nathanson's, as it was then, Sheffield office in January 99. I was 5 years qualified and moving to Sheffield as I was getting married to Carl, who had a business here. Having trained and worked at a mid-sized regional firm, I was very nervous about coming to interview at what I considered to be a big London firm, although not to work in London, and the preeminent firm in real estate at that. But the recruitment consultant persuaded me to go and assured me that I'd like them, and he was right. I was made to feel so very welcome, was introduced to other members of staff, and had a job offer even before I left the car park. Culture was very important to Navarro, as we later became, and culture was one of the reasons why we merged with CMS and Allswine 5 years ago. Our cultures fitted, and that's very important to every business. I've had an extremely varied career at Navarro and CMS, dealing with some very high-profile clients and work, and was made a partner in 2004. Now, although most of my clients are London-based, they own real estate all over the country. So from Sheffield, I'm pretty central to visiting just about most of them. I spend quite a bit of time in London, and most of my client teams are actually cross-office teams. So I get to do lots of nice things in London, but I don't have to live there. Now, I'm going to highlight some of the work the One North offices are involved in, but first I'm going to touch on the strategy. At the moment, and as you've heard, our One North offices are in Sheffield, Manchester and Liverpool, and we total just over 500 personnel. We've recently moved into brand new offices here in Sheffield, which is the largest of the One North offices. Now, the Sheffield office of Navarro Nathanson came into being in 1990 when Navarro Nathanson acquired the legal team of British Coal. The office grew over the years, ultimately offering a full legal service to a number of local, UK and international clients. We've always worked very closely with London and have been able to provide high quality work, but from a lower cost base, so something which our clients have valued more and more over the years. Navarro opened the Manchester office pre-merger, and its aim, at least to start with, was to service the significant Manchester real estate market. Again, over the years, this initial real estate offering has grown to provide a full legal service. In fact, we've grown so much that we're now taking extra space in Manchester and hope to move into the new offices in the next few months. It's a similar story for Liverpool as well, who later this month will be moving into their new offices. For over 10 years now, regional offices have become very important to the big London firms, but we recognised this back in 1990, and because of this, we have a much more established offering. So back to the work we do. Anita, if you want to move on the slide, you'll see on this slide that I've included a number of clients across the various practice areas in One North. So I'm going to start with my own practice area. Now, one of my clients is the Crown Estate, and I always say that nobody can trump me in acting for the best clients. So, acting for His Majesty the King. So I manage their regional portfolio, which is a portfolio of over 20 multi-let, retail, leisure, office and mixed schemes across England. Now, my other main client is the Battersea Power Station Development Company, and we've been acting on the retail, leisure and F&B lettings at phase 2 of this massive regeneration project. So phase 2 is actually the iconic power station building itself, which I hope you will have seen from time to time on the London skyline. After 40 years, it eventually opened its doors again to the public last month, and you can see that slide taken by one of the team. So as well as over 100 retail units and restaurants, the power station includes an impressive event space, a cinema, which will open next year, offices, one of which is Apple's new London headquarters, and 24 expensive apartments. As a real estate lawyer, it's a wonderful feeling to think that you've been involved in such a legacy. Now, another client you'll see on the slide is the Medical Defence Union and Dental Defence Union. This client is managed from our Manchester office, and a recent case has seen the team represent over 30 clinicians before the infected blood inquiry. They defend clinical negligence claims, including complex, high value and maximum severity claims, as well as dealing with professional disciplinary cases against doctors, usually before the General Medical Council, as well as assisting them in inquests. Over the last few months, the firm has been acting for Octopus Energy on its very high-profile takeover of Bulb Energy's 1.5 million customers following their administration. It involved the use of an energy transfer scheme for the first time in the UK, and this is a statutory process for energy supply companies who are in special administration. Now, our Sheffield employment team advised on the employment aspects of the transaction, including the transfer of all the staff. And outside of the US and Japan, we advised Pokemon on all of their legal matters, including health and safety regulations on their packaging of products within Europe. We have a leading health and safety team here in Sheffield, headed up by Lucas Rootman, but it's clients like Pokemon which really highlight how important our international capability is in order to support our clients' businesses. Now, that's all I have time for now, so I'm now going to hand you over to Chelsea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That was very insightful. Hello, I'm Chelsea. I am a first week trainee in the Bristol office, sitting in real estate disputes. In terms of my journey to CMS, I have been part of the CMS scholarship scheme, First Steps, and the Academy. So today I'm going to talk to you about the social life in the regional offices, in particular my experience in the Bristol office. So despite only being in the office a few months, I've been involved in several social events. For example, in the summer we had barbecue and drinks where the office played around us. This was so much fun, so competitive, and it was a great way to meet other people in the office that you don't necessarily work with. Now that we've been coming into the winter months, we've had some more indoor social activities too. For example, a few weeks ago, we had an office wine and cheese night. Honestly, this was the best wine and cheese night I've ever been to. I've never seen so many variations of cheese and wine. And these events are super relaxed and a great way to get to know the office outside of work. As a trainee in particular, there's also several social events that you do to really get to know the trainees in your cohort. In particular, in the first week, all the trainees will go out for food, drinks, and do various other activities such as bowling. We also have a Bristol trainee ball. So I've personally not attended this yet, but I've heard all the trainees throughout the law firms in Bristol come together, get dressed up, have food and a dance. These are a great way to get to know your cohort of trainees again, but also get to know the other lawyers in the local area. There have also been social events for charity, for example, bake sales and runs, but also some slightly more extreme activities too, such as abseiling and skydiving. Some of our paralegals and trainees abseiled and skydived a few weeks ago, which is incredible. Not only did this sound so much fun, but they also raised £4,000 for charity, which is amazing. While not specific to the regional offices, another social element are team away days. So this is where the teams from all the various offices to the city and come together. For example, every real estate disputes team in all the UK offices are off to Liverpool in February. We have a full day of food, drinks and activities planned, including an escape room and a bit of karaoke, I think. So this will be a fun day and a great opportunity to meet people you do not necessarily like to see in person as they're not based in your office, but you may work with them frequently on other matters. So that's a little overview of the events in the Bristol office. As you would have heard, we have a range of the social events going on, whether that's food and drink, sporting events or events for charity. From what I hear, this is the same in whatever office you're in, including all the regional offices. So while at CMS we do work hard, we definitely take time to relax and have a bit of fun too. I will now hand you over to Jake, who will explain about the very exciting opportunities of training projects in the job.
Thanks very much, Chelsea, and hi guys, good afternoon. As Anita mentioned, I'm a trainee currently based in CMS's Dubai office. So I applied for CMS's Middle East training contract, which essentially operates identically to the training contracts you could expect to find in the UK. You complete 4 different seats across 4 different practice areas. And the Dubai office has practice areas with all of the main industries that you would expect CMS to operate in. So there's a corporate transactions team, technology and media team, real estate team, finance team. There's a disputes resolution team with a special emphasis on infrastructure, construction and energy disputes. And then there's also a projects and oil and gas team as well. One thing to mention is that you will complete 3 seats in the Dubai office, and then one of these seats, I say you have to do a secondment, but secondments are an incredible opportunity, and so I'd probably rephrase that and say you get to do a secondment at either a client of the firm or one of CMS's other international offices, or you come back to the firm's London office to complete 6 months of your training contract there, which is where I am based at the minute. In terms of the office itself, the Dubai office has around 50 personnel, 40 of which are fee earners, and then the other 10 or so people make up our IT support team, our accounts team, a business development team, and there's also an HR presence there as well. There are currently 4 trainees based in the Dubai office, and these have all been recruited through CMS's Academy program. So yeah, as I say, there are 4 trainees, and then I think after the last academy that took place over this summer, a further 3 were recruited. So the office is really growing out in Dubai, and I think just through the sheer number of trainees that the office is recruiting, I think it's a testament to how quickly both the Dubai as an emirate is growing, the region is growing, and also CMS's presence there. I think one of the benefits of being part of a smaller cohort of trainees is that you'll work in smaller teams. And this is amazing because you then get direct exposure and experience and learning opportunities from the partners in the office, who really are like the most amazing lawyers. They're so friendly. And I couldn't think of a better opportunity as a trainee, a better learning opportunity to learn from these people. Again, because there aren't as many trainees or juniors in the office, you are given greater amounts of responsibility than you might otherwise expect to get if you were based in London. So you'll often be closer to the crux of the deal, and you get the chance to take part in activities such as drafting and attending client meetings. But of course, that's not without saying that there isn't the support there as well, because the team are the most supportive group of people I've ever worked with. In terms of like the international experience, and to emphasize my experience in this, I took part in a international arbitration during my second seat, and I was actually flown over to London to attend the hearing, and that was an incredible experience and quite unheard of when I've spoken to my fellow trainees based in London. And I think because there are a smaller number of trainees, the CMS office in Dubai really is proud of its trainees, and it likes to showcase them and take them to events. And also each and every member of the team, whether that's a partner, senior associate, the HR team, they really do care about you as an individual, and they take a real interest in learning about what interests you and helping you to pave your own career. And then I guess another thing that I would mention in terms of the training contract there is that because the teams are a bit smaller than you would find in the UK, when one team is particularly busy, you also have the opportunity to move across teams. So you may be based in disputes, for example, and I'd say that around 90% of your work does come from that team, but you also have the opportunity to help out with other departments as and when they are really busy. But it's always phrased in a way that if you would like to do so. So you get such an amazing experience to experience almost every single practice area that CMS offers, which for me has been really exciting. In terms of the clients that the Dubai office works for, we work for some of the biggest companies in the world, and they just happen to be working on some of the most exciting projects that are all happening in the MENA region, and particularly in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Saudi Arabia. So the Dubai office acts for clients such as TikTok, Amazon. It also works for government departments such as the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. So you'll be involved in helping the government develop major infrastructure projects across the region. We also help act for NEOM, which is the world's largest giga project. I think it's valued at around 500 billion, and I definitely $500 billion, sorry, and I definitely encourage you to go and have just a quick Google of things like the Line or Trojena, just to see the sort of the status of the projects that you'll be helping on. And then another client is the Red Sea Global, which is one of the most exciting, ambitious, and regenerative tourist and construction companies in the world. So there are some really exciting clients, and there's some incredibly interesting work to get yourselves involved in. I think something that I'd like to highlight is that as being part of the CMS office in Dubai, you will get exposure to a lot of different jurisdictions. I've worked with the Oman office, the Hong Kong office, and also some of our European offices as well in Germany and Ukraine. And you'll be really well versed in lots of different laws, lots of international jurisdictions, and not to mention local UAE laws as well. So you'll have international experience at a really early stage of your career, which is something that can really help you as you look to grow as a lawyer. And then I just wanted to touch really briefly on the social life of the office and the culture in the office. The office itself is incredibly welcoming, and it reflects the diverse and multicultural Emirate of Dubai. We celebrate all different backgrounds, and every single international holiday is welcomed and celebrated in the office. And then we also take part in a lot of CSR and pro bono initiatives as well. Some of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head is that everyone dressed up in pink for a day to acknowledge Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And similarly, although I'm based in London at the moment, I think the Dubai office is currently kayaking through the mangroves in Ajman, which is another emirate in the UAE. They're learning a bit about the ecosystem and planting some mangroves to help with the environment there. And then that will be followed by a barbecue on the beach as well. So the social scene really is incredible in the office. And given that it's a slightly smaller office, socials tend to involve everyone from the office. So you can have 50 people all on the beach having an incredible barbecue. We've done boat parties, we've been bowling, we've been to the driving range. So on top of working really hard, I have to echo what Chelsea says, in that although there's some really exciting work and you will work hard, there's also a great amount of fun to have, and it's been the best experience of my life. I couldn't recommend it more. I'm going to hand over to Ambry now, who's going to talk about the exciting opportunities in our Scottish offices.
Thank you very much, Jake. So my name is Anne Breen. I'm an associate in the Glasgow office. I qualified about a year ago and I trained at CMS. I'm just going to speak to you about my experience of CMS, the type of work that I do, and how I found it so far. So I'm in the tech and media team, which means I do a broad range of really exciting work. Principally commercial contracts, so that can be anything from putting catering services agreements in place at your university to venue hire agreements. So an example is that CMS worked with the SECC to put the venue hire agreements in place for COP26, which was held in Glasgow last year. I also do a lot of telecoms and IT work. So examples include putting network agreements in place so that people can get 5G connectivity in their local area, but also things like website terms and conditions and privacy notices and all that good stuff, and working with large IT providers on their contracts as well. So very varied. We also work on lots of data protection matters, and that can be kind of general advice on data protection compliance when our clients are launching new products or services, but also helping put data processing agreements in place and compliance with the UK GDPR, as well as assisting in the immediate aftermath of a cyber breach or a very personal data breach. Our team in Scotland also do quite a lot of life sciences work. So there we help put clinical trial agreements in place and IP licenses as well. And that's something which I hadn't ever come across before joining the Scottish team, but it's actually really interesting, and there's loads of scope to get involved in like quite exciting trials for new drugs and medicines. Particularly in response to COVID, we fast-tracked lots of trials and helped our clients through that process. So lots of really exciting work to get involved in. And the Scottish team also work on intellectual property and brand management as well. So protecting our clients from people who infringe their intellectual property or the logo. We also work with some really interesting startup companies, and that's particularly through our CMS Equip program. So the Equip program is for kind of high growth accelerator startup companies, and we assist by providing legal advice, but also a network for other startup companies to kind of discuss and engage with each other and kind of find out what works well and what doesn't, as well as kind of training and events and things. So definitely a great opportunity if you're more junior to get involved with that type of thing. And very exciting because you get to watch these companies grow and develop into like the next Apple or Google. So that's quite cool. What I would say is that we definitely operate on a one-team basis. So although I'm based in Glasgow, we work with the Edinburgh team. We've also got a team member in Aberdeen as well, flying the Aberdeen flag, but also in London as well. So like there's like not, especially with the age of kind of remote working and since the pandemic, there's not really a distinction between which office you are based at, which is really great because it means that you get involved in a really huge variety of work and you're not kind of limited to kind of where your office chair is. One of the great things I think about being in an international firm is that you get to work with some really great global clients and household names, and Jake and Sarah have mentioned a few of them. I actually spent 6 months on secondment to Amazon as a trainee, which I really enjoyed. I was part of the Amazon fashion team, and that meant working with some designers and also kind of high street brands in order to put agreements in place so that they can sell their clothing on Amazon's websites. But we also worked with social media influencers and TikTok stars to put influencer agreements in place for Amazon's advertising campaigns. So also very interesting and lots of learning for me because I don't have TikTok, so understanding how it works. But that was good fun and lots of learning, I think, and great to work with lots of different people. So I think I'm very lucky that despite working and qualifying in the Scottish team, I've been able to continue that Amazon work. And I would say that we principally work from the London office. And I know that Jake mentioned that lots of Amazon work also takes place in the Dubai office as well. But as I say, like there's not really any distinction between where you're based. And actually, I was down in the London office for a couple of days a few weeks ago, and I based myself there and met up with lots of the associates and people who I work with, but also got to go into the Amazon offices for a tour because I hadn't been in before, and got to meet kind of lots of my former colleagues and stuff. So that was really great. And then I guess I'll just finish off by echoing what Jake said earlier. There's loads of opportunities to get involved in kind of volunteering and pro bono opportunities. So an example would be that my team, the Scottish Tech and Media team, took part in a volunteering day at a local food bank. So we helped organise the donations, and then afterwards we also organised a food bank drive in our office to donate to the food bank. So that was really good, and it feels as if you get a real opportunity to kind of give back as well. We also do paired reading with local primary school children, which is good fun, and also mentoring law students and kind of assisting with other, like we work with lots of charities and provide pro bono advice to them, Social Bite being one of them. So lots of opportunities to get involved with all that kind of thing. And yeah, hopefully that's given you a wee flavour of the type of work that I do. And I'll now hand back over to Anita to take us through to the Q&A session.
Brilliant, thanks Ambreen, and thank you to all of you, Sarah, Chelsea, Jake and Ambreen, for those insights. It's been fantastic, and I've learned lots as well about our clients and life outside of London, so that's absolutely fantastic. So before we close, we've got a Q&A session now, so if I invite our four speakers back onto the floor. We've had some questions that have come in, so thank you so much for those, and some great questions too. The first question, I'll come to Sarah if that's okay. And this is around your experience. So in your experience, do you think each office has a different culture?
Right, thanks, Anita. I actually think that the different offices do have a different feel, but essentially the culture is the same. And the reason I say that is because culture is really at the foremost of everything that we do at CMS. And that's really driven by Penelope Warren, our senior partner. So it's something that's very important to Penelope, and everything that the business does is thinking about culture, how we all deal with each other, how we deal with our clients. So that's very important. I mean, just a little example I can give you is that I did mention earlier about culture and CMS, Olswang and Navarro merging, and the cultures being very similar within those businesses. And if they weren't, the merger would not have been successful. But when it was obviously the biggest legal merger that had taken place in history, so it was a very large undertaking, and what you found is that depending on where the offices were, there were some of the offices which physically merged, and what meant they're moving from one office to another office where they were going to then be sharing an office with people from CMS and Olswang. However, in Sheffield, Olswang and CMS didn't have an office in Sheffield, so although we were part of the merger, things actually physically were not going to change. And just to give you an idea of sort of culture for Stephen and our managing partner and Penelope, they were really keen to ensure that we didn't feel left on the sidelines and not really involved in the merger. And a few years before, there'd been a Scottish merger, and the Glasgow office had been in exactly the same situation, so they hadn't sort of physically merged. And the Glasgow office actually reached out to us in Sheffield and said, come and see us. We're going to come and see you. They came down to see us. They talked about the merger, what had happened. We went up to Glasgow to see them, and we were all made to feel really welcome. And this wasn't, after the merger. This was at the months in the run-up to merger. So I think just giving you that example really shows how important those things are to the business.
Fab. Thanks for that, Sarah. So moving on then, if I come to Chelsea first and then maybe to Jake to follow up afterwards. So we've had a question. So does the area of law you're interested in determine what office you apply to?
I do not believe so. So despite being in the Bristol office and it being a little bit smaller, there's such a good choice of seats that you can sit in, where you'll gain like a variation of experience. For example, the Bristol office offers tech, banking, real estate, insurance, like such a variety of different experience. And the office is also growing. So, for example, we also have an employment seat coming along shortly. And throughout all those seats, you'll get a variation of different experience, and you can really truly decide what you like and what you prefer. As Jake previously mentioned, you have the opportunity as well to do a secondment where you can experience a seat which may not be offered at your firm. So from my experience, I did not have a preferred sector I really wanted to go into. I chose the Bristol office because I love Bristol and I loved the small, close-knit culture that was kind of at the firm. It's very small, everyone knows each other, and I really liked that. But now I'm here, I know that there's so many different areas of law I could go into. So in my opinion, I don't think that being in like a regional office does restrict the areas of law you can experience and eventually go into in the future.
Thanks, Chelsea. And I guess coming to Jake then, just to any further comments in terms of the international experience that you've had, do you think, did you kind of have a thought process around your practice areas that you had interest in when you applied for Dubai, or was it similar to, as Chelsea said, you kind of, like the location more than the practice areas?
Sorry, I was struggling to come off mute there. No, I definitely echo what Chelsea has said in that I do not think being in one of the regional offices, or in my case, being in an international office such as Dubai, restricts the sort of law that you can practice and go into. As I sort of mentioned, the Dubai office has every single practice area that the UK offices and the London office offers. And because the Dubai office is probably the biggest office that CMS has in the entire MENA region, it sort of is CMS's flagship office in that region. And because of that, you will get such a broad experience in any area of law that it is you want to do. As I've said, even when I've been based in one team, I've occasionally been able to dip into other teams as and when they're super busy to help out. So I'd say I'd actually go further than to say it's not restricted. I'd say in a way I get more experience by being in the Dubai office because I get to experience more than 4 practice areas throughout my training contract. And like Chelsea said as well, because the secondment is a compulsory component of the Dubai training contract, that's just another opportunity for you to really express an area of interest that you want to go into or you want to spend 6 months in. And because the office is a bit smaller, they get to know every single trainee on a personal level, and they're really involved in helping you pave the exact sort of career that you want. So I definitely think it's something to consider if you want a broad experience, a broad training contract.
Brilliant. Thank you both. So if we can come to Ambream next, that would be great. So there's a question around, is there more to life than London, I suppose? There's a perception that all things law lead to London and the city. Do you think this perception, is true in your opinion, or do you think it's changing post-COVID?
That's a really good question, and I do feel as if there's an unfair emphasis on London because the work that we do in Scotland and that Sarah and Chelsea do in the north of England is really exciting, and it's of no less calibre than the type of work that you might be doing in London. And as I mentioned, there are plenty of opportunities to get involved in international work. So I do think it's an incorrect perception, actually. And what I would say is that we work on lots of very, very large client retainers out of Scotland, and it's never hindered us where we're based. So certainly, hopefully the perception's slowly changing post-COVID when we realise that we don't necessarily have to be based in an area in order to deliver good client services.
Fabulous. Thank you. And so I guess last question from the audience. I guess maybe come to Sarah just to finish, and maybe one other. So what do you love most about working in Sheffield, Manchester, in the north as part of CMS Life?
Well, I suppose I've always been of the view that I've had the best of both worlds in that I can go up and down to London, I can see the sights, I can go to nice functions, but I don't actually have to do the daily commute. I don't have to live in London. I can live outside of London, but it has no impact on the quality of work that we get involved in and that we provide to the clients. We are a preeminent firm, and we act for some of the best clients. That we have other firms in the regions who would be chomping at the bit, looking at our client list. So I've been very lucky for over 20 years to have that experience. And I think it's probably the same feeling that the other people in the regional offices have. And I mean, one of the things I would just add is that clients are becoming very conscious about cost. And if they can get a high quality service from CMS, which is provided from outside of London, they are very happy to take that lower cost base and demonstrate internally and externally that they are delivering best value. So I think what you will see in the years to come is that it's the regional offices who will be growing, and to a certain extent, the London offices constricting. So.
Brilliant. That's a fantastic message to end on there, Sarah. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our panel for answering those questions. So we're just going to wrap up now. Thank you very much for your time. But before you go, I must ask you the question that we asked you at the beginning of the session, which is following today's event. How much do you now feel that you know about CMS life outside of London? So while you're taking some time just to submit those responses, I just wanted to remind you of the final event in the CMS virtual event series, which is taking place this Friday afternoon, same time, same place. And this event is all about future-facing law. So our very own Director of Innovation, John Crash, will be leading that session with his team, talking about all things future-facing, legal tech and innovation at CMS and what it means to us. All the sessions from the series, including this one and Fridays, will also be recorded and available on our website. So you go into our events page, they're all on a YouTube link there, so you can watch them as many times as you like. If you've missed one, if you need to recap anything, if you feel like you need to make some more notes, you can re-watch them at a time that suits you. And please don't forget to register and access the CMS portal, which you will have access to on registering for this event, and this will provide you with loads of information about CMS Life, our application process, our 2023 programs, everything you need to know, and there'll be new information right up until the new year for you to access. So please don't miss out on that opportunity to engage with us. So that was everything from me. We are waiting for the poll results just to come in. So while I do that, again, wanted to say a massive thank you to Sarah, Chelsea, Amberine and Jake for your time this afternoon. We really, really appreciate it. I've certainly learned a lot about CMS outside of London, and indeed that we have a real growing regional presence. So thank you so much. And it's brilliant to see that that's been reflected in the results. So it looks like the majority of you either know a lot or quite a lot now, which is considerably different to the beginning of the session. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and I really hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you all on Friday for the last session of this series. Thank you very much. Bye.